Cameron and I, who started this company together, we met at Stanford. We started in a garage. We basically bought some cocoa beans and just started roasting them up and made a couple test batches based on what we learned on the internet.
There was no vision of opening a chocolate factory, at least early on. We were just making chocolate, having fun making it.
And we showed it to some friends and family, and they said, this is amazing, I've never had anything like this. Most chocolate is industrial chocolate. It means it's made by a few giant companies. They're all about getting the least expensive beans possible, generally from Africa, sometimes with questionable labor practices. They can over roast them, so they're sort of a little more burnt and they all taste the same, kind of like with coffee. And then when you have that, then you can add a lot of things to it to cover over that flavor. We kind of take the opposite approach, where we like to get amazingly good beans, and then with our tasting bars, we keep the sugar exactly the same. So it's 70%, that's 70% beans, 30% sugar, nothing else. So when you try one bar or the other bar, the only difference you're tasting is the bean and how we handled it.
We are trying to show people that chocolate is not just one taste. Like wine or coffee, different beans have these really amazing, distinct flavors that we can bring out. Basically, the sugar just makes it more palatable. It's sort of like a backdrop for the taste of the beans to come through.
There's no bigger impact on what the bar is going to taste like. There's no bigger impact on flavor. There's nothing more important. So finding great beans is absolutely a requirement, and there's no replacement for going to where the beans are, seeing how they're being grown, meeting the farmers, and sort of working directly with them to get the beans that we want.
The first stage in making chocolate, which they've already done a little bit of out at the farm, is separating the good beans from the bad beans. This is your healthy beans for the most part. I'm still sorting through these, but we just take a quick gander as we go by and sort out the ones that are bad. And that's it.
We tend to use pretty light roast profiles to bring out those distinct flavors. We do a bunch of taste tests to determine those roast profiles, and that's a lot of fun.
I started looking at how coffee was roasted in these machines to start trying to figure out how to use the roast. It's a little bit different, so like the machine doesn't actually work the way we exactly need it to.
The roaster was also really challenging to find something that would work and that would allow us the flexibility to adapt it to roast the way we want to roast.
So after they're roasted, we take them and we crack them. So that's to get the shell separated from the nib, which is the inside of the bean.
The cracker itself is kind of a modified cracker for malts for brewing beer. It works really well for us because we don't really want to crush everything, we just want to separate it.
After that, we take the mixture of shell and nib and we sort them into different sized pieces. And that's to make the next step, which is winnowing, go much better because we blow the whole mixture up using a fan, and then we have a vacuum sucking off the top. And the shell is quite a bit lighter than the nib, so as it blows the shell up, we can suck it off the top and the nibs fall down below. They don't really make a lot of machines that are specifically for making chocolate at this scale, so most of the stuff we've had to repurpose or build ourselves. For example, the winnower.
It's what can you find that works for your process? What can you cobble together? What can you get and modify and make it work for you?
I am starting a batch of Rio Caribe right now. So I have nibs that have already been proofed, and I'm gonna weigh them out, and I'm gonna grind them in our peanut grinder with new plates, and I'm gonna put them in the melanger to start a batch.
The melanger is a giant stone bottom bowl with two stone rollers that will actually crush up the nibs, and eventually we'll also add sugar. And it crushes it all up together and refines and refines and refines till it gets nice, smooth, and liquidy. And we actually measure the micron size because there's an ideal micron size for your palate to taste. When the microns are ready and it tastes right, then we can pull it off. It melanges for about 3 days. And the next step, we can put it directly into the temperer. And the temperer is a machine that heats and cools the chocolate to align the crystal structure. We want it in either crystal structure 5 or 6, and that gives you that nice like snap that you associate with chocolate. And so the way that we do that is we heat it up to break any crystals that might have formed, and then we cool it to a very particular temperature. So as it comes out of the nozzle, it's gonna come out at the right temperature to set. And then every mold we hand vibrate out. We throw it in the fridge, cool it for about 10, 15 minutes, take it out of the mold, and we have a chocolate bar. We hand wrap in foil, and we used to hand wrap in paper. Like the wrapping machine is a fairly new development.
We weren't in love with modern wrapping machines that are all about plastic and flow wrapping, and we also get handmade paper from India where they make the paper for us from garments from the garment industry, They make this paper, they hand silk screen it. It's amazing paper, but because it's a handmade product, it has all these variances. And modern machines don't like things to be different. They like everything to be the same. And so we found a machine that was built 50, 60 years ago that does things the old way. It can actually work without electricity. You can turn the wheel, and it does an amazing job wrapping.
There were thousands of bars that were hand wrapped, and now this one does it just like super fast.
It's really hard sometimes making something from scratch when you really care about the ingredients and the process, because there's the easy way to do it, and then there's the way to get the best flavor and the best ingredients and not make any compromises. And we never wanted to compromise for our chocolate. It meant we had to work a lot harder.
We put so much love and care into making it, and I think that really comes through.
This is a very exciting time for chocolate. What happened to coffee about 30 years ago is happening to chocolate right now. And people are starting to learn about chocolate, starting to wonder, where does the chocolate come from? Where do the beans come from?
It's a bit strange that it's a flavor that's ubiquitous, everybody's familiar with it, and at the same time, even self-described chocoholics and chocophiles could know so much more about what's going on. You start, showing cocoa pods and cocoa beans and talking about fermentation, and all of a sudden people's eyes go wide and they're like, I didn't know that. I'd never seen a cocoa pod before. Is that a cocoa bean?
I know everyone I've had taste it is like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. So like getting that kind of positive feedback makes me feel like we are doing something important and that people are excited about and like want to be a part of.
The public is really responding, and so it's really fun to be part of kind of a growing movement and to be doing something really interesting in that movement.